Hey, welcome to Simple Tools for Brain Surgery. I'm Bill Jack. You know, when you go out and you talk to people on the street or on a campus, there's a great question that makes people think. There are several questions, but one of them that's the most pointed is, what do you think happens when you die? Have you ever thought about that? I mean, it's the elephant in the room, is it not? It is the topic everybody wishes to avoid, and yet nobody escapes from this life alive. So what happens when you die? When you go out on a college campus, ask that question. Now you're thinking to yourself, well, there's all kinds of answers to that question. Let's name the answers to the question. What's one answer? Well, extinction. You die, you rot, you stink, and become extinct. What's another answer? Well, you are reincarnated. You get to come back. Now, there are variations of that theme, but it's still reincarnation. And then finally, it's either heaven or hell, place of paradise or judgment. There are only three answers to the question, what happens when you die? If you know all the answers to the question, are you going to be stumped by anything the person says? No. And then you can follow it up with the questions we teach in Simple Tools for Brain Surgery. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about.
Okay, so we're just doing interviews. Tell us the name of your booth, and if you would, answer one question for us, okay? And the question is, what happens when you die? Okay?
How about that? Well, this is a booth of the Humanists of Colorado, and we are a part of the American Humanist Association, which is international in scope, actually. To answer your question, we don't know, so it doesn't make any difference to us what happens after we die. But I think that we go to dust. Even the scriptures say we come from dirt and we return to dust, to dirt when we die. I plan to be cremated, so my ashes will become dirt fairly quickly instead of waiting for the worms to destroy my body.
Well, there's a follow-up question to that, of course.
Right.
And you know the follow-up question would be, what if you're wrong about what you believe?
Then that's right. Maybe I'd better join the group so I'll secure my eternal salvation. No, if we are wrong, then it doesn't make any difference, because as humanists, we feel a responsibility to human life, to the environment, to the world in which we live, because it's the only one we're going to experience here anyway. If there's an afterlife, then it's not in our control, and whatever force there is will determine what happens to us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
If we live a good life,
Oh, go ahead.
you know, if we live a good life and we believe that we do have a responsibility to build our own personal ethics and morality, so we should be acceptable to any eternal force.
Well, the question would then be, how do you determine what is good?
We all do that individually. We all, it's situation ethics. The Christian conservative would not accede to that kind of a statement, but we as humanists would, that it's a situation. It's determined by the situation itself, what is right or wrong about that for me.
But then I'd have to ask you the question that you've been hit with before, I'm sure, and that is, you're not going to say that Hitler was right in what he did to the Jews, would you?
No, absolutely not.
What's your standard then? Because you just told me that it's what the individual determines is right or wrong, and Hitler determined, or Charlie Manson determined, it was right to kill somebody.
Right.
How are you going to respond to that action?
There are, I don't want to say that there's a universal ethic, but in human society, and humanists believe that we are responsible for ourselves and our community. In human society, there are certain things that are right. We don't, the commandment itself, we don't kill our neighbor. We don't try to destroy human life, some of us have a real question about capital punishment, for example. And certainly Hitler was wrong. Genocide is wrong no matter where it comes from.
Okay. I'm going to stop there because, again, the question would be, how do you know that genocide is wrong? How do you know that murder is wrong? How do you know that Charlie Manson or Hitler or anybody is wrong? Because what you've got is you have set up, if I'm not mistaken, a universal absolute. Are there absolutes?
If there was an absolute, it would be the responsibility we have to each other and to our community. And that would, of course, mean that to kill is wrong.
So is it by majority opinion? Or is it a revealed absolute? Or is it innate in every person? What?
Well, humanism believes in a democratic ideal. Yeah, we go by a majority, but we would also go against the majority if we felt that if the decision of the majority was wrong, and we would accept the civic consequences of that.
But again, I'm still stuck on this. It's a problem, okay? I don't mean to, I'm not trying to badger you, okay?
It's real easy.
Okay. How do you know what is right and what is wrong? You see, that's my dilemma in asking the question.
I will say again that I am responsible for what happens in my life. That I am responsible to my community, to myself, to the world in which I live, to the environment. If you want to call that an absolute, then each of us is going to make a decision about what is absolute for themselves. I don't say that there is an absolute for everybody. I have made the decision for myself. And humanists generally have the same point of view, that we are responsible for ourselves and for our world. But you know, that would be the closest thing to an absolute that I would agree to.
Okay, thanks.
Well, once again, what you've seen is it's a conversation, not a confrontation necessarily. And what you want to do is get people to think. Sometimes that's the best you get, is merely to get a person to think about his own worldview. Don't be shy about asking tough questions, even out on the street. People appreciate it if you challenge them to think in a conversational way. And you may never know this side of eternity that simply because you asked a question, that person started off on a journey in which he met Jesus Christ. I hope you'll be bold enough to do those things, to ask simple tools for brain surgery. Why? Because we want to take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ and then act on what we know to be true. See you next time here at Simple Tools for Brain Surgery. I'm Bill Jack.